Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a gold standard. So, what is it? Why it's important? A little bit of history about it. And we are absolutely going back to a gold standard, and it would be directly tied to blockchain technology and digital assets. Um, if you've been in the space and if you've done your due diligence, connected the dots, and if you're paying attention to the geopolitical issues in the world, global economics and finance, you'll be able to put the pieces together and have a clear picture, and it would make sense. But you have to have all the elements to the puzzle so that you can see the big picture. So let's get into it. The gold standard. So, what is it? A monetary system tying a country's currency directly to gold hasn't been used in the US since the 1970s. So, actually, during Trump's presidency from 2017 to 2021, there were talks that he might bring it back. Now, speculation about reinstating a gold standard under Trump actually stemmed from his positive remarks on the idea. He once actually mentioned it would be wonderful to do so, supported by advisors, such as John Allison and even Judy Shelton. So now, with Trump eyeing the 2024 presidential election, some wonder if he'll even revisit the notion. Now, Steve Bannon, that's Trump's former chief strategist, suggested on War Room podcast that Trump might replace the Federal Reserve with the gold standard in his potential second term. Now, of course, this is just speculation and predictions. So, what exactly is the gold standard? It's a system where a country's currency value is directly linked to gold. So, for instance, if the US were to set the price of gold at $500 per ounce under this system, each dollar would be worth 1/500th of an ounce of gold, ensuring basically price stability. Now, under the gold standard, transactions needn't involve physical gold. It's about trust in paper currency backed by something tangible. This system basically aims to prevent inflation and deflation. It keeps things stable, just fostering a stable monetary environment essential for global trade in the entire world. So, when did the gold standard actually start? Germany introduced the gold standard in 1871, and by 1900s, many developed countries, including the US, adopted it. Now, despite its initial success, the outbreak of World War I actually made it challenging to maintain due to shifting political alliances, increasing debt in the system, and wanting confidence. So, are any countries, still on the gold standard at the moment? No, not currently. No countries use the gold standard. Um, Now, governments moved away from it decades ago in favor of fiat monetary systems, which is all a big scam. Our currency is constantly debasing and losing its value because we're not on a gold standard and because it's just backed by nothing, just confidence of the American people. And it's just a matter of time before it continues losing value and purchasing power and people lose confidence in it. And that's why we're walking through a great reset right now for the monetary system. That's why the system needs to be reset and restructured. And this is where blockchain technology, crypto, and digital assets come in, tied to commodities and gold. So, nonetheless, nations worldwide still hold gold reserves in their central banks. Actually, they've been accumulating more than ever at record highs, including myself. Now, for instance, the Federal Reserve, the US's central bank, held about 8,133.46 metric tons of gold as of March 2024. This was just last month. And so, why was the gold standard abandoned? You know, there's lots of let's say speculation on this matter. So the gold standard's downfall began really post World War II with the development of the Bretton Woods Agreement, um, which governed global currency markets until 1971. Now, the Bretton Woods Agreement that took place in 1944. Now, established at the United Nations, the UN Monetary and Financial Conference in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, in July 1944, this agreement pegged currencies to gold prices, with the US dollar serving as a key reserve currency. And we know that the US dollar is the world reserve currency. However, concerns arose over the overvaluation of the US dollar and its impact on gold exchange rates linked to gold prices. So eventually, in 1971, US President Richard Nixon suspended the dollar's convertibility, leading to the demise of Bretton Woods. That's when Nixon took us off the gold standard. Now, by 1973, currencies floated freely, making the end of a gold standard era, and that's when it stopped. So, what is the US dollar backed by nowadays? Really nothing, just confidence. And it continues to lose its purchasing power, and currency debasement continues, which means they create money out of thin air. They put more money into the system. Your purchasing power gets weaker, which means things cost more in the real world. Interestingly, asset prices go up. So if you don't own assets, you're losing and getting hurt because your currency is dying and becoming weaker. But when they print money, as your currency gets weaker, asset prices go up in value. So if you own assets, you're getting richer. Now, since the 1970s, most countries have operated on a fiat money system, what we have now, where the government issues currency not tied to any physical commodity. So they just print it out of thin air. The US dollar, too, operates on this system, meaning it's supported by the government, but not by a specific asset. The value of money is determined basically by various factors such as the supply, demand for paper currency and other goods and services in the economy. Prices for these items, including gold and silver, can fluctuate based on market dynamics. Now, what are Trump's views on the gold standard? This is interesting. Now, surprisingly, Trump has shown a long-standing interest in gold. And of course, whatever they show you on mainstream media, don't take it at face value. They are full of it. They're constantly lying, but still, this is something interesting to pay attention to because Trump, as I said, has shown a long-standing interest in gold. And we do know for a fact we're going back to a gold standard at some point in the near future because the system needs to be restructured. Now, going back to at least the 1970s, when private gold ownership became legal again, Trump reportedly made aggressive investments in gold. So he purchased more gold, buying it around about $180 to $185 and selling it for $780 to $790. Now, Trump has openly praised the gold standard on multiple occasions, not just once. In a 2015 interview with GQ, he actually expressed admiration for the idea, stating, bringing back the gold standard would be very hard to do, but boy, would it be wonderful. We'd have a standard on which to base our money. And he has a very good point there. That's what he said. Trump. In another interview, Trump, well, that same year, he remarked, "We used to have a very, very solid country because it was based on a gold standard." And that's true. Now, Trump's affinity for the gold standard is noteworthy, as you know, he surrounded himself with advisors who share similar views on that type of monetary policy. So, several of his advisors, including Judy Shelton, John Allison, Ben Carson, David Malpass, they've all expressed support for the gold standard. However, some like Rebecca and Robert Mercer distanced themselves from Trump later on. That's pretty interesting. So, Joseph Gagnon, a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, highlighted the rarity of Trump's stance, noting its divergence from mainstream economic policies since the Great Depression. So it was even interesting for him to see that type of stance on gold and the gold standard. So Gagnon emphasized that such support for the international gold standard hasn't been seen since the era of Herbert Hoover. Now, back in 2017, Politico quoted libertarian Ron Paul. I love that guy, by the way. I think he was one of the good guys. That's why they kicked him out. Well, Ron Paul, another advocate for the gold standard, stating, "We're in a better position than we've ever been in my lifetime as far as talking about serious changes to the monetary system and talking about gold." So he knows what's up. Obviously, he can't say too much about it, and that's why they kind of pushed him out. He was one of the good guys, in my opinion. Um, but is it realistic for the U.S. to revert to the gold standard? I think it is. It's just a matter of time, and I think they're going to create the data shows that there will likely be a crisis, problem, reaction, solution. They already have the solution. Gold standard is one of the outcomes in their cards. Despite speculation during Trump's presidency, it seems highly improbable. Okay, even if he were to return to office, many proponents of the system acknowledge potential complications associated with such a move going back to a gold standard. But according to analysis by the Motley Fool's Williams, economists generally agree that the U.S.'s move to a modified gold standard in 1933 played a significant role in overcoming the Great Depression. But returning to it now would likely be a misstep. Now, that's what they're saying. However, if a future president were to pursue this path and take us to a gold standard, it would require global participation. And that's what I think they're doing on the back end. There is a collective um, global cooperation taking place around the world to move us to a new monetary financial system. So, Kimberly Amadio at The Balance explains that other countries would need to adopt the gold standard to prevent issues arising from currency exchange demands, particularly from major creditors like China and Japan, who hold significant portions of US debt. See, this is where the crypto and digital assets and blockchain come into play, particularly XRP and XLM. There's a reason the World Bank talks about them in their documents, including the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, and the list goes on. They're pretty much in stealth mode, and they want you to pay attention to the lawsuit. They have big plans working in the background. It's very clear, and the data is there. But is there enough gold to support such a return to the gold standard? The U.S.'s insufficient gold reserves pose a major obstacle, supposedly. Um, so, Money Morning's David Zeeler suggests that Reinstating the gold standard would necessitate a much higher gold price. Obviously, potentially around $10,000 per ounce is what he was saying, as calculated by West Shore Group Chief Global Strategist, Mr. Jim Rickards. I like that guy a lot too. Now, in my discussion with retired wealth manager and friend Clive Thompson and my brother Verson Aljarrah, we actually discussed this topic, and we think it would be significantly higher than $10,000 per ounce. We have our reasoning for that, and we actually discuss it in the video. Clive Thompson actually was suggesting in the range between 45,000 and a little higher. Now, such a drastic increase would severely devalue the US dollar, leading to inflation, very high inflation. Furthermore, since the dollar is widely used in global trade, this move could disrupt international commerce. Conversely, adopting the gold standard at a low gold price could trigger deflationary pressures. Now, I believe that they have it all set up and prepared and ready to go. They're just waiting for the correct time to flip the switch, per se. Now, what would happen if the US embraced the gold standard again and we went back to it? Some say the repercussions would reverberate throughout the economy. So, firstly, it would constrain the Federal Reserve's ability to provide fiscal stimulus, since the government would need sufficient gold reserves to back its currency issuance. Uh, that's a little bit interesting. Um, this limitation could hinder the Fed's capacity to print money during economic downturns. There's a lot of things wrong with this because the truth is, we shouldn't have to print money constantly for no reason. And that's what the government does. They're constantly printing money for no reason, for bullshit reasons, really. Black projects, war, all kinds of things. I mean, that are really un not conducive to a healthy world. That money could be going elsewhere. So they constantly print money out of thin air and spend it on nonsense, and for other nefarious activities that we can't discuss here. Proponents argue that such a move could help reduce U.S. debt, and I believe that, but it could, exacerbate challenges during times of financial crises, given that consumer spending drives 70% of the U.S. economy. I mean, any inflation resulting from a surge in gold prices could prompt consumers to reduce spending. So, this in turn could impact the stock market, potentially trigger a recession or worse without the government's ability to cushion the blow through monetary policies. And that's the thing. That's why we need a crisis. We need a market collapse because everything is in a bubble. We are literally in the greatest bubble we have ever seen in history. And this bubble is going to pop and crash harder than 1929. This will be greater than the Great Depression. And that's why my brother and I constantly reiterate the fact that this is coming, and you need to properly and appropriately position yourself now before this reset takes full effect. We're literally in the midst of it. It hasn't fully transpired yet. Now, additionally, a return to the gold standard would expose the US economy to the volatility inherent in gold prices. While, some believe that gold could offer more price stability, it's true. Its historical fluctuations indicate otherwise. But that's because of market manipulation. For example, JP Morgan, they have a impeccable track record of manipulating precious metal markets prices, excuse me. So, I mean, look, if you guys have the influence, the power, and the amount of money and interest involved, in these markets, then you can bet that they are manipulating prices in their favor and buying the dips and pumping it and betting against the market going down when they knew it was going to go down because they made it go down. Just pure market manipulation. That's a fact, whether you believe it or not. It's a fact. I've been in banking. I've seen these things happen. Um, it's out there. It's just it doesn't hit the mainstream media too much because they want to push a particular narrative, and if it doesn't fit their agenda, then why do they need to speak about it? Okay. So, despite recent, stability, gold experienced a significant decline from 2011 to 2016. Now, that is true, but again, there's price manipulation going on in the background, price suppression as well. The true fair market value for gold ounce should be significantly higher than what it's trading at right now. Addressing Congress on this matter in 2019, Fed Chair Jerome Powell cautioned against reverting to the gold standard. So, interestingly, this guy, he doesn't want to go in that direction. He highlighted the potential conflicts with the Fed's mandate of achieving maximum employment and stable prices. Yeah, what a joke, because neither of those are working great so well. They're not working, okay? Stable prices, please tell me any prices that have been stable for the last 4 years. Nothing. Everything has gone up in price. What's happening actually is the purchasing power of your currency is getting weaker. So it seems that the cost of goods are going up and cost of living. It's really your purchasing power that's dying and going down. So, yes, they've done a great job on stable prices, maximum employment, bunch of nonsense. I'll tell you how they do that. I'll give you one example. 1,000 people get laid off. They don't report that. 800 people get hired. They report that. Now they can say, we just filled employment of 800 positions. So simple. See, I just bullshitted you right there. But they can do that since they control the media and they control the metrics and the the job report figures that come out. It's all manipulated. They'll tell you whatever they need to tell you, and it's interesting because um, in inflation, the CPI, when they do report the consumer price index, it actually excludes um, food and energy. And it's very funny because if there's anything that should be inflation or considered inflation, it should be food and energy because that's what most people spend their money on. Food, energy, it's what we need to survive, really. Everything else, we can get by without it. So that's hilarious. But that's deliberate so that they don't freak people out. Because if food and energy was included in the CPI, holy cow, that would be going up probably every month, um, like clockwork. Now, Powell emphasized that while monetary policy could stabilize the price of gold, it could lead to adverse effects on the broader economic goals. Um, and that is complete nonsense because the goal should be the main thing should be the well being of the community and the people. And how do you make sure they have a healthy standard of living, a decent standard of living and quality of life? It's by having stable prices in the economy and making sure that the costs aren't going up every year or as fast as they are. And that's clearly because they're printing money out of thin air with nothing to back those fiat currencies, and we are not on a gold standard. And then the Fed, Jerome Powell, says that returning to the gold standard presents a nuanced scenario with both advantages and drawbacks, although the likelihood of the US adopting it again is low. That's what he's saying. The topic is likely to remain a subject of debate under future administrations. And that is it, you guys. I believe that we are going to a gold standard. It's inevitable. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And the key is to be properly and appropriately positioned, have some real assets, own some gold, some silver. That's real money. And I hope you found some value in this video. Again, draw your own conclusions, not financial advice. I'm just here spreading the truth. And again, I hope you found value in this video. If you did, stay tuned for more, and I will be back. God bless you all.